So all of our webinars are recorded. You can find recordings of them under your name in the top right-hand corner here, recordings. These are updated before the next day. So today's Tuesday, I'll have this updated for you tomorrow. There'll be a link to it right here, general user under employee specific. I did have to rearrange some of the dates just due to holidays and the Graphics Canada show, but everything is still on the calendar. If you're looking for information on upcoming webinars, that can be found in under your name in the top right corner, upcoming webinars, and you will see the calendar filled out with the date changes that were just made. Today is employee specific general user, then outsourcing, templates and products on the 24th, point of sale is moved to the 29th, and then we're doing the employee specific pre-press and graphic designer, which is a little bit different from this session. This session deals more with general user functionality. This one right here, pre-press and graphic designer, is specific to running graphic timers, how to charge for time on jobs that pertain to graphic design and or typesetting, as well as the proofing process is also covered here. So those items are not covered in today's webinar, but if you want additional information, you can join this, or you can go to the recordings, and I have those marked out in chapters too, so you don't have to watch the whole thing waiting for me to maybe say what you're looking for. You can just search the chapters, and I try and keep those as specific as possible. For anyone joining the call as we're going here, I do have the chat open for any questions that you might have. I'll answer them in real time if I can. If I don't see something, we'll have time at the end of the call, but let's jump right in. This session was designed to provide new hires and existing users with an overview of what you're going to see on a daily basis when you log into Document Manager. The session is suggested for CSRs, sales reps, and production managers. The session, like all of our monthly webinars, is being recorded, posted on the recordings page. Talked about the chat window, we're all good there. So let's start out just with the dashboard view. Now, based on your level of security, you may see most things on the left-hand side navigation, or you may not be seeing certain things like accounting. If there's any admins on the call, these items can be removed from a user's view just to direct them to what they actually do need to see on a daily basis and not show more items than are necessary. That work can be done in settings. And if you go to the admin row and security, so a bindery user, for example, they may see the dashboard, but only production. So this would show up dashboard, but only the production section would show up. So it's based on all of the different things that you see here. So the top level under permissions is dashboard, point of sale, CRM to start. Right here, dashboard, point of sale, CRM, so on and so forth. It goes down the line. Within each group, so the subcategories are order totals, accounts receivable, production. If we go to the dashboard, you can see that order totals, accounts receivable, production. So it goes right in order. Like I said, you may see different information than what I'm showing you. I'm showing you the view from an internal administrator right now. So it just might look a little bit different, but you have your order totals, accounts receivable, production, orders and quotes. Have they been converted, active, or lost for quotes? And then for orders, we're looking at posted, unposted, and void, just to give you kind of an overview of what your shop is looking like. And then there's sales numbers, actual, projected, and previous as well. So this information may be available to you. And then on the right-hand side, we have tasks, communications, deposits, and purchase orders. So let's start out with tasks. Tasks, think of tasks as a replacement for inter-office email, for yelling across the shop, over machine noise, post-it notes, whatever it might be. Remember, the strength of a good MIS system is having as much information that's specific to your business in that MIS system. So Document Manager has your quotes, it has your orders, it has you're able to track your production, it has the invoices, it has the order history. So if it's something that you need to talk to another user in regards to that pertains to Document Manager, That's where tasks can come in really handy because you're not using an outside system like email to email someone within the plant. You can create a task right from here, new task, and then write out what you need. Please see me on this, whatever it might be, put a due date on it, assign it to someone, and then you can relate it to something. Now, this is a generic way to do a task. And this way, you would have to be very specific about what you're trying to show them. So, related to a contact, a customer order, or order item, quotes are also available. So, from this level, this is kind of a generic way of doing it. But if you were in the quotes section, so if I open quotes in another tab, and let's just say it was this quote right here. The nice thing with tasks, if you are on this quote and you have a question about it, you can create a task right from this level and it will automatically associate itself with that quote item or the quote level. I'm on the quote main level, sorry. And if you said, please, oops. So you don't have to be very specific. You just say, please see me on this. They can click on the link. So let's put a due date of tomorrow, assign it to the other user in the system, and then hit save. Okay. So what that would look like for the other user, I'm going to switch my identity real quick so you can see what that'll look like. So when this user comes in, they should have this in their task list, and there's other tasks. Previous tasks are on top. So please see me on this. Okay, well, what is this? The nice thing is they can just click on this link, and you don't have to be extremely, specific about what you're actually talking about. So associating it or relating it to an item or a customer or a contact, really easy way to create inter-office communications. They'll also get an alert here under alerts. Onboarding just assigned you with a new task. So if they're not on this page, they'll still see the alert, which is very nice. And then once that's done, they can just mark it as complete. And then it will be removed from their task list. If we switch back to the other user, one moment, the administrator, under settings, and this is more for admins, under settings and communications tasks right here, communications row, tasks. There is a table of all the tasks in the system, whether or not they've been completed, what the task was, who it was assigned to, the due date related to, and there's a link right to those items, which is nice too. So if you were following up on things, you could see, what was it in regards to. Created by, created date, completed date if it's completed, like this is not completed, and that the task is actually completed. There's search functionality along the left-hand side to help you, refine this search. You can also export this data if you'd like. There's not a problem there. There's a full training article on tasks, I believe, in this section here. Yep, under the training menu, additional resources, tasks. There's an article right here if you're looking for more information specific to what I just went over. The reason we bring that into this webinar is that it's on the dashboard. It's something that you're going to see. It is a nice tool that could be utilized, again, to offer up inter-office communication all within Document Manager and keep record of it as well. The communication section, if you have access to this via your security role, is all of the outgoing emails that have been sent through Document Manager. So approval was required for this item, and it shows if the recipient opened or if it's just been delivered. There's also, failed would show here. But this was a nice way to follow up. If you're sending invoices, you can see that they've opened it or that it's just been delivered. Same thing with quotes. You may want to follow up with someone that you sent a quote to that was opened and they haven't got back to you. That maybe you may want to change up your verbiage if you're emailing them or if you're calling them. Just approach them in a different way than if they didn't open it yet, right? So they may be thinking that it's too high of a number if they didn't get back to you and they did open it. So we had utilized that functionality in different ways just to be aware of the current state of those communications that went out through the system. Can be very helpful. Deposits refer to the accounting side of things. This would probably not be shown on a general user interface, and unless you're collecting payments, you wouldn't have to worry about this. Information for accounting is in an accounting webinar as well as in the training screen. If you're looking for more information, that is kind of a whole nother topic. Accounting, right here, there is an article specific to that entire process. And then purchase orders, if you're ordering stock, this is just a rundown of recent purchase orders. Those can be found in inventory PO to order supplies and stocks. And that also has its own article specific to those processes in accounting inventory in the training screen if you're looking for more information on that. So general user, I would imagine, they may be entering in customers, they may be entering in contacts, they may be creating quotes and converting those quotes to orders. So that's kind of the basic functions that we'll cover here. Also tracking orders through production. We'll go through that process and what that is going to look like on a day-to-day basis. So again, this may be not exactly specific to how your company is going to operate, but I'm trying to create kind of a generic base level with a certain amount of detail to keep this interesting, at least, right? But I don't want to tell you, overstep and tell you to do things a different way than what your team may be asking you to do. So I'll try and keep it as basic as possible and as informational as possible. And then if you're looking for an information like, okay, that's great, but we would also like to do this. How do we do? Let us know in support. Let me know in the chat if I can get to it on the call today. And we'll definitely, fine tune this to your specific needs. There's a lot of leeway and customization available throughout Docket Manager to make it more of your own. And if you're coming from a previous system, it's very important to try and create as many parallels for what did work in that previous system into Docket Manager so that you're maintaining as much of the same language that you had before in the previous system into this new system. So one thing that comes up from time to time is the customer to contact relationship. So in Docket Manager, you need to have a customer available in order to have a contact. So, and where this becomes a little bit confusing for new users is, well, the contact is the customer. Well, that makes sense. I totally understand that. An individual comes into the shop and they want to place an order. They don't belong to an actual customer. But in that case, since Docket Manager requires a customer in order to have a contact, you could create a new customer. You can create them just by going to new, and it could be the person's name, right? It could just be whoever the person is. And then once you hit save, and we'll just do that, we'll say that this is Rex Smith is the customer, phone number, fax, email, any of this information can be filled out. These are all defaults within the system that happen most of the time, right? So their ship type. So for this customer, he's always a pickup. So we'll default that. His invoice, we email it to him. All of these pieces and defaults that we're setting right here will filter into any quotes or orders that are created for this customer. So it doesn't have to be right 100% of the time, but if it's over 50% of the time that they do it this way, at least you're defaulting it in that regard, and then you can change it per quote and order. So there's a bunch of different options available here. This information at the top is specific to the customer level. So it could be in the normal customer to contact relationship. This could just be like the office phone, and then the contact level, which we'll look at in a minute, could be the individual that is doing the ordering, their specific phone number and email address. These could also be left blank if you'd like. Is this a parent company of other companies? Who is the sales rep and who is the CSR, the graphic artist? So if these are defaults that you want to utilize, those do need to be licensed users within your system. And that information can be found in settings admin account. To create new users, there's also a training article available to you, which I can show you where that is when we get off the screen. Tags would be ways to organize certain groups of customers. So if you wanted to set them as prospects until they become a customer, then you could do a search in your customer list for show me all prospects, and then you could follow up on them. You could do it geographically or by industry. These are just placeholders to show you different options, but this is you'll see this in your site. This is the path to get to how to create tags. So it's go to settings, customer, and then tags. And that's where these reside, and you can make updates to them right there. Talked about ship type, invoice delivery, customer sense. It's going to just auto-populate that. Do you want any default order statuses, item statuses, order tags, or item tags? This would be specific to your company's use case. We need to set them, with a tag that's going to indicate something to everyone every time that they write up an order, or a status that's going to show up every time. So I wouldn't, if you're just starting out, I wouldn't overthink this side of things. Grow into it as necessary. Don't try and think of every possibility. What I would say is get the system up and running. Take a look at things. It's a lot to get it started, so why add more work than is necessary? And then when you get to a certain point and you have conversations with your team and you say, it would be really nice if we could look at Document Manager and know something about a customer. That's where a status at the order level or item level or a tag at those levels might come in really handy. And if you're not sure how to use them or how to create them, just reach out via support, issue button, bottom left-hand corner, submit a ticket, and let us know what you're trying to do. And we'll be more than happy to offer you solutions in order to get there. We've seen a lot of different use cases. Again, it's very specific to what your needs are and what do you need, and at what level do you want to be able to search for that information? Those are two good questions when we're talking about statuses and tags. So those can be left blank to begin with, and they could be filled in later on. Locations. So you're going to need a default billing and or shipping address. You can mark this same as billing if you'd like. One thing to note here, and this is there's an import available for this as well. If you're filling out the address name or any one of these fields, then you have to complete this entire group. The system looks to complete an address. If you leave all of these blank, that is fine, but you can't have information in one without filling out the rest. So it's really all or nothing. And that pertains to billing as well as shipping addresses. Okay. You also have the option here to add additional locations. So if you want to have additional locations in a dropdown for this customer, you can just add more addresses and say, is it a billing location, a shipping location, or both? There is an import available for customers, as well as additional locations, as well as contacts when we get over to that level, and contact additional locations. So additional locations that are specific to a certain contact. The financial section we go through in the accounting setup. So some of these things you may want to have defaulted, and I can show you customer defaults as well. But we go through each of these options in the accounting webinar. So if you want to take a look at that for more information there. Communication defaults, these are the documents that the customer is going to see, as well as the canned emails that are going to be defaults for this customer. Now, you don't have to change this to a certain default on every single customer. If you leave this on select an option, that is the default setting. And what that will look like is, just one second. In settings, communications, documents, you're setting a default at the quote level. So quote 6, no totals, is the default in this system. So the default column shows that's the default. So at the customer level, you can leave this select an option and it will just use the system default. Now, if this specific customer needed a different document, then you would choose the different document, but this can save you some time just leaving these as select an option. Same thing for canned emails. Online ordering, this is a whole nother side of setting things up, but this is found in the web to print training material. So if you want more information on that, I would take a look there. And that is the end of the new customer window. Again, filling out defaults so that we don't have to change it every single time. Little things like they're usually a pickup, kind of our safety net, different options. So all you would have to do is hit save here. And again, this conversation started with a contact who's actually a customer. So here's the customer, and then the contact could be created as well. And this could just be the person's name again. And then you could fill out their phone number and their email. You don't have to fill out additional location information if it's the same as the customer level. The system will look to the customer level for billing and or shipping addresses, and those will be available regardless of who the contact is. And unless it's different, a billing or shipping address for the contact, then I would fill them in. Otherwise, you can leave them blank. Okay. So again, customer to contact relationship, you have to have a customer record in order to have a contact available. When we're looking at creating new customers, and if you want certain pieces of information, maybe it's the ship type, invoice delivery, and then some financial data as well. Like I said, this is in accounting, but this may come into play in this conversation. So if you want that to be defaulted for all new clients, excuse me, you can go to settings, customer defaults, and say default customer, and then you could set up like ship type. So normally everyone's a pickup, and normally new customers, we email them their invoice. Their payment terms are COD, so maybe it's with order, right? You can say with order and COD. So these are just defaults for new customers. You can default a tax type, whatever you need to do here. But if we hit save, and then you go to CRM, and we try and create a new customer now, you'll see that information would default in each one of these sections. So that's a nice way to get things started. And then once they're an established customer, maybe you move them to net 30. Your accounting department does. Again, imports available for customers, imports available for contacts. Suppliers are the individual or the companies that we use to purchase supplies and stock in inventory. Again, that information is in a webinar as well as the training screen. Vendors are for outsourcing at the quote or order level when we're creating a quote or an order, and there maybe it's a complete buyout for a promotional item for a specific customer, or maybe it's foil stamping for something that you're printing in-house and then you're not doing that portion of it. That would run off of vendors. Suppliers and vendors could be the same company, but they need to exist in both places. There is some crossover there. Order screen, item view, yep. So we're going to jump over to quotes now and take a look. So that's some background information. You're going to need a customer, you're going to need a contact available in order to create a quote or an order. I always start with quotes. Just be aware you don't have to start with a quote in order to turn it into an order. You can go right to an order if the customer just wants to place an order, just new, and you're ready to go. It's the same process. But when people are starting out with Document Manager, it's good to be using quotes because they're not going to affect your work in progress like orders are. So this could be a helpful way to keep these quotes available for future use. So the quoting process on a daily basis would look like this. And when you're starting out, you're doing a lot of legwork to get information into the system. I'll also show you how to reorder a previous order, how to take an old order and create a quote, different ways to streamline things. But quotes, that brings you to this tab, and then we can just hit new. Okay, so let's say that this was marketing materials. Whatever the customer is calling what the request for quote is, you should probably reuse that information. So if they said, I need a quote for marketing materials, you would say, all right, the quote name's marketing materials. If that's what they're going to refer to it as this time, we're hopeful, we're never 100% sure what our customers are thinking, but we're hopeful that when they call back, they'll say, yeah, you quoted me for marketing materials. And then you would have, a leg up to say, all right, we can look there and we can search by the quote name. So we can be very generic with the overall quote name and then very specific at the item level, which I'll show you in just a moment. The next quote number is provided here in sequence. So it's 1033. And then we're choosing a customer. So now if we choose a customer, like this individual here, and then we can choose the contact from that customer. Okay, that's going to fill out any defaults that we had set here. So if this was going to be not a pickup and he wanted it delivered or warehoused, you could make the adjustment here. Making an adjustment at this level does not change those defaults at the customer level. So you're trying to figure out what is going to work most of the time, set that up at the customer and contact level, and then per change or use case, you can make adjustments to the quote or the order level. Default billing and shipping would come in, their financial payment terms and tax type would show up at the bottom there as well. So again, keeping this quote level very generic, you can search at the quote level, you can also search at the item level. So this can be very simplistic, where in other systems, another system I was a user of for a very long time, we had to be very detailed because this was the only field that we could search for when we were looking for reorders. So we had to put every single item in this field. It wasn't in Document Manager, obviously, but it looked a lot like that. And then they wouldn't always fit, but the customer ordered a certain amount of items on a quote or an order, and then we would have to try and fit them the best way possible. This is a simplistic approach to being able to search for the quote name as well as the item name, which enough about promising the item name. Let's take a look at what that looks like. So again, very generic, save. That will create quote number 1033. It's a quote state. It's for marketing materials like we named it. It has the next number in the sequence. There's no pricing on this quote. There's nothing available because we don't have any items. So in order to add an item to a quote, we can go to just hover over new. And if you're just starting out and just start trying to get information into the system, I would lean towards quick add. This is a nice way to get started. It takes all of the fields that we're going to see in the next view that are specific to getting a quote priced outright, a quote item priced outright, and puts them on one screen for you. So let's just say that this is a trifold brochure. Oops, and that's my number one spelling error in printing. There we go. So again, we have marketing materials. The first item's a trifold brochure. And then the second item could be, a banner or a stand-up sign or something like that. We don't have to list all that here because we're listing it at the item level. Optional description. If you have job templates in your system, you could load a job template into this window. It would pre-fill everything for you, and then you can make adjustments. There's a webinar and training materials on job templates and products. Sets refers to if you were doing pads. So if you were doing pads in sets of 50 and you wanted 10 pads, the quantity would be 10, sets would be 50. This is a price-driven calculation right here. This sets also refers to multiple pieces of artwork, but it's the same image repeated over and over and over again. Versions would refer to the artwork changes. And where this becomes price critical is in offset printing. So if the number of versions is over the number up, then the system will automatically figure that you need another set of plates or multiple sets of plates for additional forms. But in talking about a trifold brochure, we don't have any sets. We can leave that blank. We have one version. We can put 1 here. If we leave this blank, it'll default to 1. Item statuses, you could say that this is a priority, different items here that would be visual on the production board so that your team would be aware of it. This can also print out on the work order. We'll leave that blank for now. Order due options. These are pre-fills, so you could set an order due option. This is going to be more specific use case for at the order level. not at the quote level, but it's the same window in Quick Add for quotes and orders. You can also hard code or manually enter in due dates if you'd like. These are pre-fills. So really you could go name, versions, number of sides. So for a trifold brochure, we're going to say it's two-sided. We are then going to go to our press group and choose, let's say we're going to run this digital. By choosing a group, what that does is it refines what's available in the next dropdown. So it's only showing digital devices. Once you choose the press, if it's a digital press, it's going to ask you, do you have single-sided or double-sided originals or sheets? Are they black and white? Are they color? Or are they black on one side and color on the other? What this functionality and when you're entering a value into one of these fields is really doing in the background is looking at the click rates that are associated with that press. And if it's double-sided and it's one color sheet to create a flyer, it's going to pull the click rate twice because it's double-sided. Certain amount of clicks for side one and that same amount of clicks for side two. The reason that all of these fields exist on this screen is because when you start to create book work, possibly, or you have multiple originals, you could fill in, well, some of them are black and white and they're single-sided. There's, 5 that are double-sided color, whatever the makeup of that book or number of sheets that set is could be entered here. But for simple work like brochures, flyers, business cards, it's just one original. And then make sure you get it into the right field. Is it single or double-sided? Is it black and white? Is it color or is it mixed? Again, this would pull the black and white rate for one side and the color rate for the other. So for a trifold brochure, I'm just going to enter 1 here and then we're all set. The next section is stock. So we're going to choose a stock to run this on just by clicking the plus sign. And let's say it's 100-pound matte text, $13.19. Flat size would be 8.5 by 11 for the brochure. And what that will do is the run size and the flat size will work together to create an imposition. So now we have 2 up. The finish size is strictly informational for bindery as well as pre-press. So if it's 8.5 by 3.6 when it's done, we should enter that in here so the team knows to fold this down, but also so graphics knows that the panels need to be set up to fold down to this size and you don't have that carryover. On is in regards to multiple sheets or multiple versions. So in this case, we have 1 sheet, we could just say 1 on. 1 of the same thing printed here and 1 of the same thing printed here. Again, if you have multiple, like 3 sheets, 4 sheets, then you would want to optimize this and say it's 2 up. So we want to print image 1, image 2. And then on the second form, if it was 4 sheets, it would be image 3, image 4. But in this case, we can just put a 1 here. If you leave this blank, it'll default to 1. Pages is an informational field. If you're doing a book and you want to tell your team that in the end, this is 32 pages, excellent. This does not come into price calculations unless a department item has a lock to of pages, of course. So you don't have to fill this out in order to get a price. On the left-hand side, we could say if this has bleeds or not. This is a system default that you could have it turned on for everything, and then you turn it off when you don't need it. Or like this system is set up, have it off, and then you would turn it on as needed. So again, some key points here. Make sure that an original or a sheet count is put in here. And again, it's how many sheets is this trifold brochure, not how many press sheets are needed or how many sheets of paper do we need to run it. The system will figure that out for you. A flyer or a brochure is 1 sheet and it's double-sided. Run size and flat size. Remember, these are working together to create the imposition, and finish size is strictly informational. When I chose this press, in the press setup, I had a pre-flight department item and a hidden shipping department item already attached to the press, so those come in automatically. So that those can be defaulted to save you time. So every time you use a press, if there's certain charges that you need available, those can be added automatically, and that's in settings and press Your admins could set that up and have defaults. If you need help with that, please let me know. I'd be more than happy to help you do that. Anywhere we can reduce clicks is going to be helpful for everyone. So if we didn't need one of these defaults, you can delete them from here. But if we want to add additional department items, and department items are everything from graphics charges to folding, in this case, or maybe scoring, whatever is necessary that's not a stock or a press. So I'm just going to hit the add department item button right here. That gives me the opportunity to search by department item name or search for a certain type of group. So we could go to finishing, search, and it will just show finishing type options. Let's see, what do we have here? That must not be in the same, yeah, trifold right here. It's in a testing group, sorry. So trifold, and then if we needed something else, we could add that too. So if we wanted design, you can add multiple. We'll just add trifold. Okay, so we've got that. And then the last piece of the puzzle, and from time to time I see customers forget this and then they, well, why don't I have any pricing? I filled everything out. You're gonna need at least one quantity in order to make this function. So there's a lot of information here, but again, it's condensed down into one screen, all the necessary components of a quote item. By the time you get here, make sure you enter in a quantity. So let's say 500. And if they wanted a quote on 500 or 750, for example, you can hit that plus sign to the right. It'll create another row. And then we have two quantities. Once you're done with this window, you can hit save. So one thing to note is when you hit save, you can't get back to this exact window, but you still have access to all of these fields as well as many more fields. This is just a shortcut window to get you started. So then we'll hit save. And we don't want to fill out any prices here because the system is going to use the information in the background to come up with the prices. Again, stocks, department items, and presses. So if we want to see a breakdown of what we just created, we can click on the item number. And one thing to note with the item number, it gets a suffix number after it. The item number has a 1, 2, 3, 4, however many items there are, that's added on to the order number. So the order number, which will also become the invoice number, is 103. I'm sorry, this will change. We're in a quote. My apologies. This will change over to a numbering sequence, but this level number at the order level will become the invoice number. And then each item can be tracked individually through production. So that's the reason that there's the numbering sequence options here. It's just the order number and it's item 1, and then 2, and then 3, and then 4. And I'll show you what it looks like at the order level as well. But if we want to take a look at what this is built upon now and or make any other edits to it, we're just clicking on the item number 10331. That is going to bring us to the new item page, which you can see here. So in the past, if there's any users that had been using the old layout, there was a tab for each different section. So that it looked like this. Excuse me. I'll just show you. So you may be used to this view. You had to know where everything was located. And yes, you probably did become quite accustomed to that, like I did as well. And it was like, okay, this is taking a long time, but then I learned it and I was like, okay, I know where to go. So each section was a tab in the old view. We've moved everyone over to the new item layout because what this does is instead of having those tabs going from left to right, it's a cascading page that shows all of the data that was there before in different sections: graphics, stock, press, finishing, outsourced. So everything is still available. It's all on one page. And the beauty of this is if you go into edit mode to make changes, you can make changes in multiple places on this quote item, all on one page without having to go from one tab, make a change, save, go to another tab, make 2 changes, save. You can do it all on one page. Looks like this got a little hung up. I apologize. But there's 2 levels here. There's the view mode, which we were just in, and then the edit mode. And the reason that those exist, that there's 2 levels, is that some people may have security roles that allow them to edit quotes or orders, and others can just view. So you start with the view mode, you can go into edit mode by clicking edit mode up here, which now says view mode. But like I had mentioned, all of the fields that were on the quick add window are also available here, but along with multiple other fields that may be necessary for certain different instances. But the name, the description, the company information, the contact information, the due dates, the pricing section with the quantities that we had entered, those are right here. We can add additional quantities. Pricing table breakdown specific to the quantity that's selected right here with this orange check mark, white check mark, orange background. If you want to see the breakdown of this table for the 750 quantity, you would just click there and then hit save. And then these numbers will adjust based on this quantity selection. So now we're looking at a breakdown of that. And one thing that customers get a little confused on is there is a graphics, a stock, a press, finishing, cutting, and outsource section in blue. There may be multiple items within those sections, such as this hidden shipping and trifold. Hidden shipping's at 0 right now, so it's just the trifold. But here, let's do this. So you can see, I'll give you an example of what I've seen people get confused with. So let's say this was $15. Save. So the entire finishing section is $34.50, and that is the sum of 15 and 19.50 because those are within that finishing section. Okay, so just a little heads up there from the UI standpoint of view. These are totaling this amount in blue in each section. Graphic section, stock section, this is where we saw the flat size, the run size. There is a breakdown of how many sheets are necessary for the job. You can change the paper right here. The press section shows the press, number of sides. Here's where we had entered in that one double-sided color sheet, and it's going to come up with side 1 and side 2 calculations for you. The imposition is here. You can click into the imposition to print it out or to make adjustments to it if you'd like. Finishing is your cutting. So it's saying there's 6 cuts. There's $1 per cut, and this specific stock fits 500 sheets in a lift. Based on how many sheets we have necessary, it's only 1 lift. So that is going to come back with $6 in cutting. 6 cuts times $1 times 1 lift gets you to $6. So that's how that is operating. And then there's an outsource section as well down here. So if you needed to send this out for foil stamping, like we had mentioned, you could use this outsource functionality. I'm going through this whole process in a future webinar this month, in a week or two. I can't remember from what we just looked at. It is on the calendar, but if you want to take a look at that webinar when that comes out or join me live, I'd be more than happy to have you. I'm going to go more in depth with this whole process for outsourcing. So we're a little light on time here to go through the whole thing today. So we've decided to break that out into its own webinar. As we're going along here, let's see. So we've added that item. Again, you can make multiple adjustments to different fields all the way going down this page, and then just hit save once when you're ready. You can go back into view mode right here. You can get back to the main quote level by clicking on the quote number that's at the top. And then if you wanted to add another item, you could do so. You could go from product now. So if you have products in your system, you can add a product to this quote. So if you had a product that was, let's see, an envelope, for instance, or a vinyl banner, let's just add that in. I had mentioned banner before. Final banner, it's going to come in with the defaults that it was set up with. And at the product level, you can go into this item and make adjustments to it. Any adjustments made here at the quote level with that product do not go back to the product. The product remains intact as a default. It's just this instance that you can make changes to. So that's a really nice way to get information in the system quickly. Templates, same way that we have templates and products. So you could find a template possibly if that's what you're utilizing. We could say we need a flyer. That's another option. And then from scratch is going to take you directly to this page where you can fill everything out. But I would say for new users, the quick add window is a little less, specific with all of the fields. It might be helpful to go with quick add to start and then make adjustments once you find out where that information is coming through here. There's a lot of fields on this new item page that don't pertain to pricing and or auto calculate. So quick add would probably be my best suggestion for new users. You can also pull in a group template. So if it's a book, you could bring that in. You can use insert to insert other quote or order items that exist, or products or group templates. And then also customer goods can be accounted for here. That is in the inventory webinar. We won't go into that. That's a bigger discussion. But once we have our quote in order and we have all the quantities for the different items, all the items have been added, we're going to actions in the top right-hand corner. You can print the quote from this dropdown, choose a document style. There may be one, there may be multiple in your system. And once you select a document, you will probably not see it the first time because there is a pop-up blocker that comes up in the address bar right here. So I'm actually glad this happened. Just click on that, say always allow, done, and then come back, print quote, choose the document, and then that will populate for you on that document. You can download this PD as a PDF right here on the right-hand corner, and you can print it right here. If you try and hit Command P, it'll try and print the entire web page. I've done this in the past. I've done it recently as well. So just be aware that the shortcut is trying to print the entire web page. I would go to the top right and print there. The other option is to go to Actions Email Quote, and you can email the quote right through the system. It's still going to ask you to choose a document style because it will attach a PDF to the email. It will default to whoever the contact is if they have a email address. And then you can choose a document style, or a canned email style, I should say. Quote style 2 comes with the system. You can load in other canned emails, but this is just a generic. Here's your quote, see attached. This one is a view online link. If you have the web to print capability with Document Manager, they can click on this link and they can approve their order right online, and it will automatically create an order in your system. So that might be helpful for some clients, not for others, depending on who your clients are. If we were to send it out like this, just quote style 2, send, that would mean that they would then email us back when they were ready. They would say, okay, yeah, you're in the system, you're working on other things. You get the email back from the client and they say quote number 1033. So you go to quotes, quote number 1033, search for it using any of these parameters here. I just use quote number. We'd like to place an order for this, 750, 1, and 500. So the quantities that we had here, for instance. So all you're going to do from this level, if you're doing a manual order, you're going to the quote, actions, convert to order right here. It leaves the quote intact in the background. It creates an order using the next invoice number, like I had mentioned before. The invoice number is going to be different than the quote number because unfortunately we don't win every single quote that we do. The numbering sequences need to be different for that reason. This will become the invoice number, and then each item has a specific suffix number, 1, 2, 3, so that we can track these individually through production. And what the first step would be here is to take either one or multiple items and then print a work order for them. If you want them all on one work order, there's work orders that do that. You can select all of them. Work order. This one right here, multiple items detailed, would allow for that. So it's work order 1049. And then 10491 is a brochure, 2 is the banner, 3 is a booklet, and all of the specs for those. Or you can print them separately on their own work order just by clicking this first work order, then uncheck this, do the next one, so on and so forth. Once those work orders are printed, these items should then be moved to the next queue. And this is going into production views. So queue is over here on the right, and they're all in to assign by default. All new items are put in the to assign queue. And the way I look at to assign is that the customer service rep or salesperson, whoever's writing up the order, still has it in their possession. It hasn't been released to production yet. So maybe they're waiting on a file, maybe they're waiting on, confirmation. If you want to attach a file of any kind to an item, you can click into the item. And right from view mode, you can go to item files, plus, and load a file or a URL here, and then mark it as with a file group. Maybe it's the customer supplied file or the print file, whatever, however you want to label it, that can be done here. So these items would then move to, and click all of them. If they're all ready to go into production, we can click move next, and maybe they're going into the graphics department. So it will report that they're all in the graphics department on the right-hand side. And what your team's going to be looking at as they're tracking things through the system is this production board here. So you would physically walk those work orders to graphics, and the graphics team would be looking at the graphics queue. And here's 10491, 2, 3. Those are the only items in there right now, but these can move independently of one another. So if these go all out on proof, and then the trifold brochure is going to get printed digitally, this can move to the digital department. The banner could eventually move to wide format. And the booklet, maybe this is running on an offset press, so this could just go to the press queue. So it's really nice to be able to track each item specific to where it is in its life cycle, but they're always still together on the order. So if we go to the order screen and we go to 1049, just to get back to that order view, you can see this one's in digital, this is in wide format, this is in press. So we can see where each item is. They'll eventually all come back together in finishing and or shipping, and then ultimately to be invoiced, which is gone over in the accounting webinar. But the ability to track each item separately is very helpful. There's also an all queue in production. So if you want to go to all, this is all items within your system, and you can see 1049, 3, 2, and 1, and then where the queue is: press, wide format, and digital. So this is a nice option to search for any item within that's currently in the system. Makes it very easy to track things down when the customer emails or calls you looking for where their job is. You don't have to get up and, well, I think it's about at the press, let me go ask them. Then you go ask the pressman, hey, have you run this yet? And they'll be like, why? Is there a problem with it? Of course, right? The doomsday. So here you don't even have to bother anyone. Well, it looks like it's currently at the press. Okay, you need this, you need that. Yeah, we know you need it right away. Let's see what we can do. So you can make, an on-the-fly communication back to the customer without having to, all right, well, we'll call you back. I have to go find out where it is. As soon as you print out a work in progress report as well, if you were putting something on a spreadsheet or something like that, it becomes, out of date within a minute or two, because hopefully things are moving through your shop, whether they're moving from left to right, or some things sometimes move back and then go forwards. But this is all customizable. There's information on that in production and training. So if you go to training and you go to production views, there's information on that side of things, as well as life cycle of an order. This is a really good article for everything that we've gone through here today. We started with create a quote, so you may want to start here, and then life cycle of an order. That's printing the quote, converting it to an order, tracking it through production, just like we had done here. What makes this really nice, if you're doing the work up front, getting all of the information in the right way, filling in the appropriate fields on quotes and orders, when the customer calls back and they want to reorder and they say it was invoice number 1049. All right, 1049, we want to reorder that. You can go to this order and you've already got it created. So the nice thing is you can go to actions, reorder, it'll just create a new order out of it, or convert it to a quote. You can take a quote to a quote to an order to a quote, or an order to an order. It doesn't matter, whatever way you want to do it. And there's always a string of where things came from and if they got converted to something else. So this 1049 was quoted on 1033. There's a link to it. You can get to that. And it was converted here at 1033 to 1049. You can go back to the order level right there. Real quick at the order level. So if this was done and ready to go, and you wanted to create a shipment on this, right here in the bottom corner, shipments, you can say new. And let's say this was a UPS shipment. You can paste the tracking number in here so you have it for future use or to send out to the customer. The origin fills out based on your information, billing from the order level, destination from the order level. I didn't pick anything, that's why this doesn't show up, but you could adjust it at this level or go back to the order actions and change it there. Shipment notes, this is just internal notes. You can parcel out shipments and there's more information on that, but at the very minimum, what I would suggest doing is logging the costs of the shipments. Let's say it was $35. There's a default handling fee of 30%, so it's going to charge the customer $45.50. And if your shipping department is utilizing this, that's going to go right to the bottom of the invoice. $45.50 in shipping. If they add another shipment, maybe there were samples that needed to go out to the agency or the designer, and let's say that was $12. So we're adding $15.60. Now it's $61.10. So the nice thing here is you won't miss accounting for a shipment cost and or price, but you'll also know what went where and how it went. So this is a very important step in the process as well. Once this is done, once all of these ship, then they would be moved to normally, depending on how you're set up, but normally they'd go from all shipping to be invoiced, and then the invoice would be sent from there. Again, there's information on that specific process in training and accounting right here. So again, we've got you covered with webinars. They're being updated every month. There's new ones being added, upcoming webinar calendars right here. Recordings are right below there. If you need help with anything, we're always available for you. Issue, submit ticket, fill out this information. When we reply back, it just goes to your email address that you provided. So make sure you type your email right. There is the knowledge base of articles. If you hit articles, search for a term, knowledge base community discussions, as well as feature requests for them. And then within Docket Manager, we're actually pulling articles from the knowledge base. If you click on this help button, this question mark in the top right, this toggle help panel slides out on the right, and this is page sensitive help. It knows what page you're on, and it offers articles, frequently asked questions, and videos as well, specific to the page you're on. So if you were on production, it will show production. If you go to quotes, for instance, it'll show you information specific to quotes. So a lot of different support features available. We're constantly updating those. If there are no questions, I will say thank you for joining me today. And like I said, I'll get this recording up and available before tomorrow. Just have to add the chapters. If you think of something off the call that you forgot to ask, just hit issue, submit ticket, let us know. We'll be more than happy to help you. And it'd be great to hear from you. Excellent. Thank you all very much. And I will talk to you all very soon.